The rain hammered against the broken windows of the abandoned warehouse as Emma pressed herself deeper into the shadows. At only 14 years old, she had been living on the streets for 3 weeks now, ever since her foster family decided they didn't want her anymore. Her stomach growled painfully, reminding her that the stale bread she found yesterday was her last meal. The sound of whimpering caught her attention through the storm. Emma froze, listening carefully. There it was again, a soft, desperate cry coming from somewhere in the darkness ahead. Despite every survival instinct telling her to stay hidden, something pulled her toward the sound. She crept forward on trembling legs, her worn sneakers splashing through puddles of rainwater that had leaked through the roof. In the corner of the warehouse, behind a pile of rotting wooden crates, she found the source of the crying. A German shepherd lay curled in a tight ball, his beautiful golden and black coat matted with mud and blood. The dog's ribs showed clearly through his thin fur, and his dark eyes held the same fear and desperation that Emma saw in her own reflection every morning. One of his back legs was twisted at an odd angle, clearly broken, and fresh cuts covered his muzzle and ears. Emma's heart broke as she looked at this magnificent creature reduced to such a pitiful state. She knew exactly how he felt, alone, hurt, and forgotten by the world. The dog lifted his head weakly when he noticed her, but instead of growling or showing aggression, his tail gave the smallest wag against the concrete floor. "Hey there, boy," Emma whispered softly, slowly extending her hand toward him. "It's okay. I'm not going to hurt you." The German shepherd sniffed her fingers carefully, then gently licked her palm with his rough tongue. In that moment, Emma felt something she hadn't experienced in months, a connection with another living being who understood her pain. She noticed a torn collar around his neck, with a metal tag that read Rex. The leather was old and cracked, suggesting he had been lost for quite some time. Emma wondered how this beautiful dog had ended up here, injured and alone just like her, as she sat beside Rex, sharing the warmth of their bodies in the cold warehouse. Emma made a decision that would change both their lives forever. She couldn't leave him here to die, even though she could barely take care of herself. They were both survivors, both fighters, and somehow she knew they belonged together. The storm outside grew stronger, but inside the warehouse, two broken souls had found each other in the darkness. The next morning brought harsh sunlight streaming through the warehouse windows, revealing the true extent of Rex's injuries. Emma had spent the night curled up next to the wounded dog, sharing her thin jacket as a blanket. Both of them had shivered through the cold hours, but neither was alone anymore. Emma knew she had to find help for Rex's broken leg, but veterinarians cost money she didn't have. She remembered seeing a free clinic on the other side of town that sometimes helped animals, but getting Rex there seemed impossible. He couldn't walk on his injured leg, and Emma wasn't strong enough to carry a full-grown German shepherd. She spent the morning searching through the warehouse and nearby alleys, looking for anything that could help. Finally, behind a closed restaurant, she found an old shopping cart with 3 working wheels. It wasn't perfect, but it might work. Convincing Rex to trust her enough to lift him into the cart took hours of patient coaxing. Every movement caused him pain, and Emma felt tears streaming down her face as she watched him suffer. But Rex seemed to understand she was trying to help. He licked her hand encouragingly even as she struggled to move him. "I'm sorry, boy. I know it hurts, but we need to get you some help," Emma whispered, finally managing to settle Rex as comfortably as possible in the cart. The journey across town was one of the hardest things Emma had ever done. The cart's broken wheel made it pull to one side, and Rex's weight made it difficult to push uphill. People on the street stared at the strange sight, a dirty teenage girl pushing a wounded dog in a shopping cart, but no one offered to help. Some people looked at them with disgust, crossing the street to avoid them. Others whispered comments about street kids and wild animals. Emma felt her cheeks burn with shame, but she kept walking. Rex needed her, and she wouldn't give up on him. When they finally reached the animal clinic, Emma's arms ached and her legs felt like jelly. The receptionist took one look at them and frowned. "This is for people who can pay for services," she said coldly. Emma's heart sank, but she refused to leave. "Please," she begged. "His leg is broken. He's going to die if someone doesn't help him." A veterinarian named Dr. Martinez overheard the conversation and came to see what was happening. When he saw Rex lying in the shopping cart, his expression softened. Without saying a word, he helped Emma lift Rex onto an examination table. "He's been through a lot," Dr. Martinez said quietly after examining Rex. "But he's a fighter. We can set his leg and treat his wounds. It won't cost you anything." Emma felt overwhelming relief wash over her. For the first time in weeks, someone had shown them kindness without expecting anything in return. Dr. Martinez worked on Rex for over 2 hours, setting his broken leg and cleaning his wounds. Emma waited anxiously in the lobby, worrying that something might go wrong. When the doctor finally emerged, he was smiling. "Rex is going to be fine," he announced. "His leg will heal completely, but he needs to rest for several weeks." "Where are you planning to take care of him?" Emma's stomach dropped. She couldn't tell him she was homeless. What if he decided she wasn't capable of caring for Rex? What if he called social services and they took her away? "We have a place," she lied, trying to sound confident. Dr. Martinez studied her carefully. Her clothes were dirty and too big for her thin frame. Her hair looked like it hadn't been washed in days. But he also saw something else in her eyes, a fierce determination and love for the dog that impressed him. "Rex is lucky to have you," he said finally. "Here's my card. If you need anything, food for him, medical supplies, anything at all, you call me." "Promise?" Emma nodded, clutching the card like it was made of gold. As they prepared to leave, Dr. Martinez quietly slipped a bag of dog food and some bandages into the shopping cart. Back at the warehouse, Emma created a comfortable bed for Rex using cardboard and her jacket. She carefully followed Dr. Martinez's instructions for changing his bandages and giving him water. Rex seemed to understand that Emma had saved his life. He watched her every movement with grateful eyes. The next few days established a routine between them. Emma would leave early in the morning to search for food and water, always returning to check on Rex. She learned which restaurants threw away their leftover food and which store owners might give her odd jobs for a few dollars. Rex proved to be an excellent guard dog, even while injured. When strangers approached their hiding spot, he would alert Emma with a low growl. His presence made her feel safer than she had in months. One evening, as Emma shared a sandwich she had managed to buy with Rex, she started talking to him about her life. She told him about the foster homes that never worked out, about feeling like nobody wanted her, about the fear that kept her awake at night. Rex listened patiently, occasionally nuzzling her hand with his nose. When she finished talking, he rested his head on her lap, and Emma realized she finally had a family. It might not look like other families, but it was theirs. As the days passed, Rex grew stronger. His appetite returned and his tail wagged more frequently. Emma could see the life coming back into his eyes. But she also noticed that her own clothes were getting looser. She was giving most of her food to Rex, telling herself she wasn't that hungry. One morning, Emma felt dizzy when she stood up. She had been pushing herself too hard, eating too little and worrying too much. As she stumbled, Rex barked urgently, trying to help her even though his own leg was still healing. Emma realized that taking care of Rex meant she also had to take care of herself. They needed each other to survive. 3 weeks after finding Rex, Emma was pushing the shopping cart through downtown when she noticed a woman watching them from across the street. The woman had kind eyes and graying hair pulled back in a ponytail. She wore simple clothes and carried a large bag over her shoulder. At first, Emma was nervous. Adults usually meant trouble, questions she couldn't answer, authorities she couldn't face. But something about this woman felt different. She didn't look at Emma and Rex with judgment or pity, just quiet understanding. The woman crossed the street and approached slowly, keeping her hands visible. "That's a beautiful dog," she said softly. "What's his name?" "Rex," Emma replied cautiously, instinctively moving closer to the shopping cart. "I'm Sarah," the woman said. "I work with a group that helps people and animals who need assistance. Would you like something to eat? There's a soup kitchen just around the corner." Emma's stomach answered before she could, growling loudly enough for Sarah to hear. Sarah smiled gently and gestured for them to follow her. The soup kitchen was unlike anything Emma had expected. Instead of a cold institutional building, it was housed in a converted church basement with warm lighting and cheerful decorations. Volunteers served hot meals with genuine smiles, and nobody asked uncomfortable questions. While Emma ate her first real meal in days, Sarah sat quietly beside her. Rex lay under the table, enjoying a bowl of water and some dog treats that Sarah had produced from her bag. "How long have you two been together?" Sarah asked eventually. Emma found herself telling Sarah the truth about finding Rex, about living on the streets, about feeling like nobody cared. Sarah listened without interrupting, occasionally nodding to show she understood. You know, Sarah said when Emma finished, we have a program that might help you and Rex. It's not a foster home or an institution. It's a transitional housing program where people can stay while they get back on their feet. Dogs are welcome. Emma felt her heart race. It sounded too good to be true. What's the catch? She asked suspiciously. No catch, Sarah replied. Just a commitment to working towards stability. School, job training, life skills. Whatever you need to build a future for yourself and Rex. Emma looked down at Rex, who was sleeping peacefully under the table. His leg was healing well, but he still needed consistent care. She was exhausted from constantly worrying about where they would sleep and what they would eat. Can I think about it? Emma asked. Of course, Sarah said, handing her a card. Take all the time you need. But Emma, you've already proven you can survive anything. This is about learning to thrive. That night, back in the warehouse, Emma lay awake thinking about Sarah's offer. She had been independent for so long that accepting help felt scary. But watching Rex sleep peacefully beside her, she realized that her decisions affected him too. The next morning brought unexpected trouble. A security guard discovered their hiding spot and ordered them to leave immediately. Emma quickly packed their few belongings into the shopping cart, her hand shaking as she helped Rex to his feet. They spent the day wandering from place to place, but every potential shelter was either locked or already occupied. As evening approached, Emma felt desperation creeping in. Rex was tired from walking on his healing leg, and storm clouds were gathering overhead. Standing in the doorway of a closed store as the first raindrops began to fall, Emma pulled out Sarah's card. She had been trying to survive on her own for so long, but maybe it was time to accept that sometimes the strongest thing you can do is ask for help. With trembling fingers, she dialed the number on the card. Sarah answered the phone on the second ring. When she heard Emma's shaky voice asking for help, she didn't hesitate. Stay where you are, she said firmly. I'm coming to get you and Rex right now. Within an hour, Sarah arrived in a small van equipped with blankets and a comfortable space for Rex to lie down. As they drove through the city, Emma pressed her face to the window, watching the warehouse district disappear behind them. The transitional housing facility looked like a regular apartment building, which surprised Emma. She had expected something that looked more like a shelter or institution. Sarah led them to a small but clean apartment on the second floor. This is yours for as long as you need it, Sarah explained, opening the door to reveal a furnished studio with a kitchenette, a comfortable bed, and large windows that let in natural light. Rex is welcome here too. Emma stood in the doorway, afraid to step inside. She had spent so long living day to day that the idea of having a permanent space felt overwhelming. Rex had no such hesitation. He limped straight to a sunny spot by the window and lay down with a contented sigh. Over the next few days, Emma slowly began to adjust to having walls, running water, and a refrigerator. Sarah introduced her to other residents in the building, people of all ages who had faced various challenges and were working to rebuild their lives. There was Marcus, a veteran who had struggled with homelessness after returning from overseas. He immediately bonded with Rex and offered to help with his physical therapy exercises. Maria, a single mother with 2 young children, taught Emma how to cook simple, nutritious meals. And there was David, a teenager only a year older than Emma, who had aged out of foster care and was now studying for his high school equivalency test. For the first time in her life, Emma felt like she belonged somewhere. But old habits die hard, and she found herself hoarding food in her room and sleeping on the floor instead of the bed, just in case she had to leave quickly. Sarah noticed these behaviors and addressed them gently. Healing takes time, she explained. For both you and Rex, it's okay to feel scared. Indeed, Rex was having his own adjustment challenges. After weeks of being constantly alert for danger, he startled at every normal household sound. But gradually, as he realized they were safe, he began to relax. His leg grew stronger each day, and his coat regained its healthy shine. Emma enrolled in the facility's education program, working with a tutor to catch up on the schooling she had missed. It was frustrating at first. She felt far behind other kids her age. But her tutor, Ms. Johnson, was patient and encouraging, Intelligence isn't about where you start, Ms. Johnson told her. It's about how far you're willing to go. Emma discovered she had a natural talent for mathematics and science. She spent hours studying with Rex lying faithfully beside her desk. Sometimes she would take breaks to practice commands with him, and she was amazed by how quickly he learned. One afternoon, Dr. Martinez visited to check on Rex's progress. He was amazed by the transformation he saw in both of them. Emma looked healthier with clean clothes and bright eyes. Rex moved without pain and responded eagerly to commands. "You've both come so far," Dr. Martinez said, scratching Rex behind the ears. "This is what recovery looks like." As weeks turned into months, Emma began to dream about the future. She wanted to become a veterinarian like Dr. Martinez, helping animals who couldn't help themselves. She also wanted to work with homeless youth, understanding better than most what they were going through. But first she had to graduate from high school and save money for college. It seemed like an enormous goal, but with Rex by her side and a support system she had never expected, Emma began to believe that anything was possible. 2 years later, Emma stood in her cap and gown, holding her high school diploma with one hand and Rex's leash with the other. The German Shepherd sat proudly beside her, his coat gleaming in the afternoon sun. He wore a small graduation cap that Sarah had made especially for the occasion. The journey hadn't been easy. There were setbacks and moments of doubt. Emma struggled with trust issues and nightmares about returning to the streets. Rex had his own challenges, becoming overprotective of Emma and anxious whenever she left for too long. But they worked through each obstacle together, with the help of counselors, veterinarians, and their chosen family at the transitional housing facility. Emma learned that healing wasn't a straight line. It was a process with ups and downs, good days and difficult ones. Dr. Martinez attended the graduation ceremony, beaming with pride as he watched Emma receive her diploma. After the ceremony, he approached with exciting news. "I've been thinking about what you said about wanting to become a veterinarian," he said. "I'd like to offer you a job at my clinic. You can work part-time while you attend community college, gaining hands-on experience with animals." Emma felt tears of joy streaming down her face. Everything she had dreamed about was becoming reality. Rex sensed her happiness and wagged his tail enthusiastically, drawing laughs from everyone around them. But the most meaningful moment came when Sarah approached with a special surprise. "There's someone I'd like you to meet," she said, leading Emma to a quiet corner of the graduation venue. A young girl, perhaps 12 years old, stood nervously beside a small injured cat. The girl's clothes were too big for her thin frame, and her eyes held the same fear and desperation that Emma recognized from her own past. "This is Jessica," Sarah explained. "She found this cat 3 days ago and has been trying to take care of him on her own. I thought you might be able to help." Emma knelt down to Jessica's level, Rex lying down beside her in a non-threatening position. "What's your cat's name?" Emma asked gently. "Whiskers," Jessica whispered. "He got hit by a car, but I couldn't take him to a vet because you don't have money," Emma finished understandingly. "I know exactly how that feels." Over the next hour, Emma shared her story with Jessica, explaining how she and Rex had survived on the streets and found their way to safety. She told Jessica about the kindness of strangers like Dr. Martinez and Sarah, and how accepting help had been the bravest thing she ever did. "Would you like me to take Whiskers to see Dr. Martinez?" Emma offered. "He's very kind, and he'll make sure your cat gets better." Jessica nodded eagerly, and as they walked to Dr. Martinez's clinic together, Emma realized her life had come full circle. She was no longer the frightened girl who had found a wounded dog in an abandoned warehouse. She was someone who could offer hope to others facing the same challenges she had overcome. 6 months later, Emma started her first semester of college studying pre-veterinary medicine. Rex accompanied her to campus every day, certified as her emotional support animal. They had their own small apartment now, filled with photos of their journey and mementos from the people who had helped them along the way. Jessica visited them regularly, and Whiskers had made a full recovery. Under Emma's guidance, Jessica had also enrolled in the transitional housing program and was thriving in school. On quiet evenings, Emma would sit with Rex on their small balcony, watching the sunset and reflecting on how far they had traveled from that stormy night in the warehouse. They had saved each other in every way that mattered, proving that sometimes the most broken things can be mended into something even more beautiful than before. Rex would rest his head on Emma's lap, and she would scratch behind his ears the same way she had that first night they met. They were no longer just survivors. They were healers, helpers, and living proof that love and determination can overcome any obstacle. Their story had become a beacon of hope for others, showing that no matter how dark the night seems, dawn always comes for those brave enough to keep moving forward together.